What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden here. What is going on, everyone? I hope we are all doing extremely well today. I am most certainly doing well today. No major complaints, as we got some great stuff to talk about today with the New York Mets, who just took 3 out of 4 games from the Colorado Rockies. So that's always enjoyable to see. You never could complain when your team takes 3 out of 4 games from. I get it, a team that is not that great, but hey, a win's a win. It's all that matters in the end, right? So in today's stream, we are going to be touching on the New York Mets and the Colorado Rockies series summary. We're going to be summarizing what went well, what went wrong for the Mets, and I guess both the Rockies, of course. And then, of course, obviously, a big series is coming up tonight with the Los Angeles Dodgers, one of the best teams in baseball, actually the best team in baseball. So Mets will have to face off against that team, obviously. So we're to be discussing that, and then, of course, all your guys' comments, questions, concerns will be answered. So if you have any of that, don't hesitate, drop it below, and let's stop wasting any more time and let's dive into this Mets series with the Rockies. So let's dive into it. Getting into it, game one, the New York Mets were able to take game one by a score of 3-1. Obviously, we had the GOAT, Jacob DeGrom, on the mound, who went 6 innings, surrendering 3 hits, a run, a walk, 9 strikeouts, 87 pitches overall. I mean, that is really phenomenal to see DeGrom get back up there with his pitch count. We know that Showalter was kind of like hesitant on how many innings, how many pitches he would go. So really good to see Showalter have the confidence in his ace, and of course DeGrom to be fully healthy and go those outings. Obviously, he looked good, only one away from double-digit strikeouts. That's kind of the goal, I think, at this rate for DeGrom, with how elite he is, just to get double-digit strikeouts. But hey, still, listen, I'm loving it. DeGrom's doing elite stuff. Like I said, not much of an analysis to give. We know how dominant he is, and he got run support. So that's always been the thing for DeGrom. Following that, Seth Lugo came in for an inning, got into a little bit of a jam. Obviously, 2 hits, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. So he was able to get out of the situation that he started. So really good to see Lugo doing that, obviously occupying his changeup. Following that, Edwin Diaz came in for the 8th inning. Obviously, this is something that we've been seeing the Mets do a lot with Edwin Diaz. Usually in the past, Diaz would just go for the 9th inning, but this is something that I think that the Mets are trying to explore a little bit more, especially Showalter is, putting his closer in the 8th inning to face the meat of that lineup. And that's something really interesting. It's something that, maybe a lot of teams don't usually do. So yeah, it's interesting. Even if you're, in the 9th inning and you're going into extras, so it's really something to see that. It's really something interesting to see Buck Showalter do. You don't see many managers do that throughout the league, and the Mets haven't really done that in the past. Obviously, with guys like Rojas, Callaway, going back in the days, maybe besides Bobby Valentine. So yeah, good to see. And then obviously to close out this game was Adam Ottavino for his first save on the season. Obviously, Ottavino went an inning, strikeout, and 12 pitches. 8 of those were in the strike zone. So good to see Ottavino. Slider was on point. Always good to see. Pitching held down the job. Like I said, you only gave up 1 run. It was a solo shot. Otherwise, you only limited this Rockies team to 6 hits. Obviously, they were not hitting with runners in scoring position, nor did they really have the chance to hit with runners in scoring position. So very impressive from this New York Mets pitching squad. I get it. It's against a Rockies team, but still, pitching's pitching. Getting into this offense, the offense, well, they got enough runs that they needed to win. Getting things started in the 3rd inning, Francisco Lindor, fundamental baseball, RBI creation, that's all that matters. In the 3rd inning, Francisco Lindor had an RBI ground out to first to bring in Tomas Nido for the first run of this game. Following that at bat, Pete Alonso had a 3-0 count, and what did he decide to do? Well, Pete Alonso had a 2-run homer to left, 409 feet, his 31st of the year, to bring in himself and Starling Marte, and that's all the offense they needed. They were able to score 3 runs in the 3rd inning, and hey, they got the job done. That's really all that matters. Like I said, you got 8 hits. Obviously, good night from Alonso, 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Obviously, Tyler Naquin, 2 for 4. You like to see that. Francisco Lindor, 0 for 2, but he did have 2 walks. Nimmo, 1 for 2, did have 2 walks. So really good to see overall. The Mets take game 1 from this Rockies team. Getting into game 2, which was a really fun game to say for the least. The Mets won this game walk-off style, 7-6. Getting things started, you had Chris Bassett, who went 7 1/3 innings, surrendering 8 hits, 4 runs, a walk, and a strikeout in 88 pitches. 60 of those were in the strike zone. Be a little cognizant with the slash line with the runs because we're going to get into why that was given up. But Bassett, phenomenal outing, really to say for the least. One of the best outings he's had all season. Being real, he mixed up his pitches really well, the slider, the changeup, the fastball. He got out of situations with runners in scoring position. He would rely on that ground ball double play, get out of the inning so he could expand his pitch count. And he went 88 pitches. Could he have went longer? Yeah, he could have, but he got into a jam where Showalter felt it was necessary to take him out and go to his bullpen, which is something that the Mets have kind of been a little bit worrisome. Obviously, with this season, with how this team's bullpen is right now. Getting into it, following that Bassett outing, Michael Givens came in, and Michael Givens said, "You know what? I'm going to ruin Bassett's ERA and numbers." Michael Givens came in 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, a strikeout, 15 pitches. Just absolutely unfortunate to see. He was 1 strike out of it, and what happened? Diaz, obviously for the Colorado Rockies, obviously Diaz had a 3-run double to deep right center. So, really unfortunate to see. Obviously, this Mets bullpen is really something that they are going to have to address. Definitely a major concern, you could say, for the least, considering, how horrible this bullpen's been. Obviously, I don't like to use ERA, but since the trade deadline, this bullpen has had a 4.55 ERA. That is just a no-can-do. Really, to say for the least, that is a no-can-do. They're really going to have to figure something out. So, luckily, Edwin Diaz came in following that outing for the 9th inning, went an inning, hit, struck out, 1 batter, 16 pitches, 10 strikeouts. Another dominant outing from Edwin Diaz. You like to see that. Getting into this offense, the offense was where pretty good offensive night, obviously. 7 runs, 10 hits. You like to see that. Getting things started with the offensive creation in the 3rd inning, Brett Baty had a solo home run to right, 389 feet. That was his first Citi Field home run and obviously his 2nd overall. So good to see Baty getting on some of the action. Following that, in the 5th inning, Starling Marte had a triple to deep right field to bring in Mark Canha and James McCann. Heading on into the 6th inning, while you were down, or obviously you weren't down, but Mark Canha had a deep RBI double to center to bring in Darren Ruff. You like to see that. And then heading on into the 8th inning, while you are down, obviously 2 runs, Mark Canha comes into clutch once again and has another RBI double to left down the line to bring in Ruff and McNeil. Good base running by McNeil. Obviously, he was going with 2 outs. So that was really good to see for the least, obviously. And then obviously you went into the 9th inning, obviously, with the tie game. You're in the bottom of the 9th inning. You have 2 outs. You have a runner on 3rd. And what does Pete Alonso do? He decides to be an MVP of this game. And Pete Alonso had an RBI single to left center to bring in Brandon Nimmo to win the ball game. Pete Alonso, obviously, hero of that game, no doubt, by simply enough walking it off. Obviously, Canha can make a case for coming into clutch. So really good to see the Mets, bullpen blow a game, and then simply enough, they fix it, and they're able to avenge themselves. Like I said, you look at 2019, for example, and 2019, this bullpen was abysmal. They were horrible. But, they didn't have the bats like this to come back and win ball games like this. That's just simply enough something that you could see. 2019, like I said, this bullpen was horrible, but we just didn't have the bats and the clutch mentality to come back and win these ball games like we do right now. So it's good to see, really is, to say for the least. Obviously, in terms of this night, Alonso 2 for 5, McNeil 2 for 4, Canha 2 for 3 with 3 walks. Phenomenal night from Canha. McCann 2 for 3. You don't see that often. So good night offensively. Obviously 10 hits. You like to see that. Obviously very important to see this Mets team, come into clutch. It's very important. So Mets win 7-6. Getting into game 3 of the 4-game series, obviously the Mets won once again by a score of 3-0. Getting things started, we get David Peterson on the bump for the New York Mets. Peterson had another phenomenal outing, obviously 6 innings, 4 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, 7 strikeouts in total. Peterson had 102 pitches, something you don't see very often from Peterson. Usually he gets that 80-90 mark in like the 5th inning and he's gone. But no, that Buck Showalter left him out, obviously, and Peterson did a pretty phenomenal job. I mean, you could read the numbers for themselves. Only 4 hits, 7 strikeouts. So the strikeout ratio was up. The Rockies lineup, who are pretty inadequate offensively, we're chasing and we're swinging at, simply enough, a lot of Peterson's pitches. So, I mean, really good to see. Really is. Obviously, Peterson really occupying that slider, something that has really been a big part to his success this season. We know that Peterson usually was a ground ball type of pitcher. He didn't like to rely on the strikeouts, but this year he really changed up his approach on the mound and went back to more that 2020 mentality, as you could say, and went to throwing much more harder on the slider. Obviously, his velocity on the slider is ticked up, and on all of his pitches, he's throwing them harder. The velocity is ticked up. So that's been very impressive, something he worked on throughout this whole season. Like I said, had that mixture of ground balls to strikeouts, and that's, a good outing from Peterson. He didn't really give up any hard contact, so that's another good way to know that Peterson had a good outing. So phenomenal outing from David Peterson. Like I said, obviously you did not have Carrasco. Obviously, we know what's going on with Carrasco. So good to see David Peterson throughout really all of 2020 and this year step in when pitchers are down, and I mean it doesn't even feel like it because how well he pitches. So obviously good part there. Obviously following that, Seth Lugo came in for an inning, probably one of the best outings we've seen out of Lugo. An inning, 2 strikeouts, 14 pitches. Changeup was intact. The spin rate on the changeup was there. We're starting to see some of that, old Seth Lugo, and that's going to be very important for this Mets bullpen. I'll give Lugo props. He's been very consistent lately. Hopefully he could just stay that way. That's going to be the biggest thing for, obviously, Seth Lugo. Following Seth Lugo's good outing, Trevor May came in, who also had a good outing, an inning, 2 strikeouts, 12 pitches, 10 of those were in the strike zone. So, May also has been he hasn't been great, but very important to see him have a good outing in this game. Obviously, his slider looked really nice, so no major complaints there. And then Adam Ottavino came in to finish things off. Get back-to-back saves. Impressive to see from Ottavino. Obviously, Diaz pitching 3 days in a row. Showalter gave him the night off and went to Ottavino. Obviously, only faced the bottom ends of this lineup, so that was probably a bigger reason why that was the case. But Ottavino came in, an inning, hit, and that's all she wrote for the Mets pitching staff that night. In terms of this offense, I mean, to an extent, quiet game, 3 runs, 7 hits, but you got the job done with your dominant pitching. Leading things off in the first inning, Brandon Nimmo had a solo home run to right, 433 feet. So good to see Nimmo, who's been slumping in that leadoff spot, especially in the first inning, gets a ground ball, gets a fly ball, but is able to leave the ballpark. So good to see. Heading on into the second inning, Brandon Nimmo with some more run creation. He had a 2-run RBI double to right to bring in, an RBI double to right to bring in Mark Canha. So very impressive to see. And then in the 7th inning, to put the cherry on top, Starling Marte had an RBI double to right to bring in Brandon Nimmo. So obviously Nimmo, very big night, obviously scoring 2 of those runs. Obviously 2 of those were RBIs. So good night for Nimmo. Obviously Nimmo went 2 for 3. Obviously 2 runs, 2 RBIs, a walk. So no major complaints there. Canha, 2 for 3. He really had a good series. So we'll see how that goes. And getting into game 4 in the final game of this 4-game series, Mets were unable to get the sweep they lost, but I'm not, too upset considering that you just won the last 3. Getting into it, the Mets lost by a score of 1-0. Like I said, you had Max Scherzer on the mound, and Scherzer had a really good outing. 7 innings, 4 hits, a run, a walk, 11 strikeouts, 112 pitches. Obviously, the only run creation he gave up was when in the 7th inning, he became a victim of light contact. Obviously, 2 bloopers, and then 1 tough play that Beatty was not able to make to get the bases loaded with no outs, but was only able to give up 1 run, obviously unearned, considering that it was a sacrifice fly, which Naquin caught. Good play by him, obviously. Could have easily cleared the bases, so good glove by Naquin there, but obviously it did bring in a run considering it was a sac fly. But like I said, it was really good to see Scherzer get out of it. Obviously a strikeout, and then 2 fly ball outs, shallow to get out of it. So really impressive start from Scherzer, just offense wasn't able to do anything. Following that, Joely Rodriguez came in, an inning, a hit, no major complaints. Following that, Michael Givens came in, gave up 2 hits, big surprise, and a strikeout. So, yeah, pitching for the most part did a pretty good job. It was the offense that was really quiet, like I said. German Marquez, a guy who the Mets have had pretty good numbers against in the past, had some of the worst pitching numbers in MLB, and you just were not able to get the job done against him. Like I said, only 3 hits. So, I mean, really unfortunate. You got a hit from Alonso, a hit from McNeil, and a hit from Beatty. Otherwise, pretty quiet game offensively for this team. I mean, Nimmo 0 for 4, Lindor 0 for 4. Yeah, not ideal to see. It's games like this that always do seem to stink, obviously. You went into the 9th inning. Like I said, you went into the 9th inning. You got 1 out from Lindor, who silly ground ball out to right. Alonso got on, opposite field base hit. You had 1 on, 1 out. Winning run at first, Vogelback comes up, strikes out, and then you have into the hands of Eduardo Escobar, and we all know how Eduardo Escobar has been. He has been horrible. So he obviously got out there. That's a big surprise from Eduardo Escobar. So, yeah. So that was the Mets and Rockies series. Mets were able to take 3 of 4. No complaints, like I said. I mean, I would have much rather have taken 4 of 4, but hey, 3 of 4 is something that I will not be complaining about. So now the challenge gets a little bit more complicated as the Mets are continuing their homestand, but they're going to be facing a much more difficult team, and that is in the Los Angeles Dodgers. Obviously, the Dodgers are red hot. They have only lost what is it, like 6-7 games this August? So they have been on fire lately. This Dodgers team has the best record in the MLB at 89-38. That is the second best. That is the best. The Mets are tied with the second best record with the Houston Astros. So like I said, you look at the Mets record, you look at the Dodgers record. Okay, Dodgers have plenty of talent, obviously. 44-22 on the road. So those are good numbers on the road. Pretty good there. But yeah, Dodgers are definitely the team to beat. Obviously, the last time the Mets played the Dodgers, they were able to split that series. It was a 4-game set where the Dodgers took the first 2 and the Mets took the last 2 with some great pitching. If we remember that, I think that was all the way back in June where the Mets were able to have some great pitching. Obviously, Juan Lopez, I remember that outing, and I think it was game 4 of the Mets and Dodgers last appearance when it was I think it was like runners on second and third, and a base hit would have won it, and he had no outs, and he was able to get out of it. So, I mean, little outings like that were important for the Mets then, and we'll see. Obviously, these two teams have definitely, in my opinion, gotten a whole lot better since, and it's going to be exciting. And with that said, Game 1 will be tonight at 7:10 with Taijuan Walker on the bump for the Mets. Obviously, Walker 10-3 on the season, 3.38 ERA, 1.20 WHIP, 117 and 1/3 innings pitched. And 88 strikeouts. Walker, for the most part, has been having a really good season. Biggest thing for Walker is that split finger. He's been throwing it much harder. The velocity on it has gone up. That splitter slider has also been something very successful for him. Biggest thing with Walker is, how his first couple innings are going to be. The pitch count is something you have to consider. We know the stories about second half Walker and how he could turn out to be. So we'll see. Obviously, limit the barrels, limit the hard contact, stick to the light contact. You have good defense in the left side of the field. You're playing a lefty tonight, so that'll mean you'll have a different lineup to an extent. A couple different guys in that, so you have more your defense out there. So that'll be really good for the Mets case with Taijuan Walker on the bump. Obviously, Andrew Heaney on the bump for the Dodgers. Heaney, he's a lefty, so, you get a little worry about that considering how the Mets have been against left-handed pitching, although they have gotten a lot better. Guys like Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, Pete Alonso have gotten much better against left-handed pitching, especially Pete Alonso. He has been raking against left-handed pitching recently, so that'll be a really good thing to see there. So that'll be tonight's game at 7:10. Getting into game 2 and game 2 of 3 of this set against the Dodgers tomorrow, which will also be at 7:10, the final game of August. Crazy to see how it flies. The Mets will have Jacob deGrom on the mound. Obviously, deGrom, not much of an analysis to give. He's dominant. He's elite. 3-1 on the season, 2.15 ERA, 0.55 WHIP, 29 and 1/3 innings pitched, 46 strikeouts. Like I said, deGrom has been doing deGrom-like things. I mean, expected outing. I mean, you hope he can give you 6-7 innings. Ideal, maybe 4 or 5 hits, maybe a run, 10-11 strikeouts. That'll be ideal. This is a much tougher lineup for DeGrom to face. Obviously, it's the Dodgers, one of the best in MLB. So, we'll see how DeGrom can handle it. I mean, he's shown in the past he's capable of handling the Dodgers. So, to say for the least, we're really just going to have to see how this outing goes. I think the most important thing is going to be is DeGrom off that pitch count limit. Probably is, in my opinion. I think he's probably done with the whole pitch count limit, considering that he went, what was it, 87, 88, 89 pitches his last outing. So I can't really imagine that Showalter would limit him. I mean, I don't think he'll throw, a full game if it gets to the scenario of a complete game. I don't think he'll get to that, but we'll see. 6, 7 innings would be ideal. And then obviously Tyler Anderson, another lefty, will also be on the mound. So like I said, try and hit left-handed pitching, and that's all you could really hope for. Getting into game 3 in the final game of this 3-game set against the Dodgers. Dodgers starter is undecided, so we'll see who it is. Maybe a opener, bullpen game, we'll see. Obviously, big blow with Walker Buehler being gone. But for the Mets, they'll have Chris Bassett. Obviously, Bassett, who has been red hot lately. 11-7 on the season, 3.34 ERA, 1.13 WHIP, 148 and 1/3 innings pitched, 139 strikeouts. Like I said, Bassett usually has been pretty consistent. He mixes up his pitches really well. Like I said, the only thing with him is he can have a little issue with the long ball, which he's been containing recently. I think he's only given up like 1 or 2 home runs this month, so that's not horrible. Like I said, if he can just contain the long ball, yeah, good things are to come. For Chris Bassett. Mix up his pitches really well. Like I said, he has 6, 7 pitches in his arsenal, so that can be I don't want to say complicated to go after, but if he can try and really, to say for the least, if he could just try and figure that out, then you could definitely expect a good outing from Chris Bassett. So like I said, 3-game series against the Dodgers. This is going to be a really tough series, considering that Dodgers are one of the best teams in baseball. But I mean, hey, so are the Mets. You could definitely make a case. Obviously, the Mets' second best record in baseball, only behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I think this is a team that is definitely capable of winning ball games against this Dodgers team. I mean, we saw it last outing, where they went 2 out of 4 against them. And everyone's saying, oh, we're going to get swept. No. So, like I said, we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be really exciting to see how the rest of this 4-game series goes against the Dodgers. It's going to be a huge series. Like I said, I know the Dodgers are not a division matchup, but, it's definitely going to give you enough room between the Braves, obviously the Phillies, more so the Braves. So, yeah, like I said, we'll have to see how that goes. Super exciting to have this 4-game set tonight. Like I said, you are playing against 2 lefties. So we know how the Mets numbers are against left-handed pitching. So, yeah, that's where I can get a little worried. That's where the Mets really have to be cognizant and realize, are we going to be able to hit left-handed pitching? And I will say the Mets have gotten much better when it came to left-handed pitching. I don't think they're like last year where they were practically only, giving up a hit or 2. But yeah, they've gotten much better with it. Obviously, guys like Alonso have been hitting for long balls against left-handed pitching. Obviously, Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil. This whole lineup has really been getting better with left-handed pitching. And you brought in guys like Naquin and Ruff who have great numbers against left-handed pitching. So you could definitely expect them to make appearances in these 2 games. So we'll see how things go for this series. Expectations: take two of 3. Even if you take 1 of 3, I'd still accept that. Just don't get swept. At least take 1. If you take 2, awesome. If you sweep, awesome. At least win a ball game. That's what I say. And I think they're definitely capable. They proved they were able to take 2 of 4 in June. So, and we'll see. So now let's get into some guys that I think will be hot this series. Obviously, in terms of the Dodgers, a lot of hot guys on that team who are hot, offensively on fire. Obviously, Mookie Betts is one of those guys. Betts has been putting up, MVP numbers the last couple of weeks. So he's going to have to be one guy that you're going to have to try and contain. He's coming off of Player of the Week this last week. So, I mean, we're going to have to see how the Mets, try and attack, simply enough, try and attack Mookie Betts. It's going to be exciting. And then for the New York Mets, they have a couple guys to name who have been hot offensively. I will name 3 of those guys for starters. I think Jeff McNeil is definitely one of those guys. McNeil, like I said, has been on fire lately, to say for the least. He has been hitting the ball very well. Bat-to-ball contact, BABIP, hitting the ball to the other, opposite field, left field. He's been doing that, and he's been getting on base. So that's what I have to say with McNeil. Obviously, looking at McNeil in his last 7 games, 27 at bats, having 10 hits, a walk, 370 average, 380, 393 OBP, and a 480 slugging. So 370 average, 393 OBP, and 481 slugging. He had a good series against the Rockies, obviously, 4 hits. So he's really been doing a phenomenal job at the plate, McNeil. So he is my first player to be successful. A little cognizant considering you are playing left-handed pitching, so we'll see how McNeil could face off against left-handed pitching. Like I said, do that BABIP route. If he could barrel a ball, great. That could be a possibility considering he's a lefty, and I think a lot more of his power numbers comes towards lefties. So we'll see how things could go for Jeff McNeil there. It's going to be very impressive to see, really how McNeil is going to be able to go against, simply enough, this team. So going to be excited. Really, to say for the least, going to be exciting. So that is my first player to keep an eye out for this. Into the second player getting into this series. For starters, there's a lot of good guys on this Mets team who have been playing well. Obviously, Mark Canha is going to be my second guy. Canha has been doing a phenomenal job at the plate. Obviously, the extra base hits, the doubles have really been there for him. So I think he's going to be my second guy to keep an eye out for this series. I think he's going to have a really good outing. Obviously, looking at Mark Canha's stats, Mark Canha really is just changing his approach at the plate. I mean, to say for the least, he's been doing a phenomenal job. In the last 7 games, 23 at-bats, he has 9 hits, 2 homers, 8 ribbies, a walk, 391 average, 481 OBP, and an 826 slugging. So those are good numbers. Had a good series against the Rockies. 4 hits, 3 RBIs, responsible for arguably winning Game 3 of that series. And getting into the third and final player of this series, kind of got a little bit of an interesting take, but I am going to go Brandon Nimmo. I think he's going to change things up. I know he's in a little bit of a slump, obviously only batting .231 in his last 7 games. The OBP is still there. Obviously, the 375 OBP. He has 5 walks, so he's walking a little bit more than what we've been seeing. So I think he'll have a good series. I think he'll break out of his mini slump, and I think he will provide some offensive production. I think that's something we could examine there from Brandon Nimmo. So that is my predictions for the Mets and Dodgers series. Those are some guys that I think will have a good series. Some guys that I think you should keep an eye out for. So we'll see how things can go there. Going to be a super exciting series. Like I said, take 2 of 3, maybe even take 1 game. That's all I'm going to ask for. Just don't get swept. Simply enough, just do not get swept. That's all I ask for. And yeah, simply enough, if you could do that, then I will simply enough leave this series being happy. So let's get into some of your guys' comments, questions, concerns. What's up, everyone in the chat? What's going on, Seth? What is going on, Gio? Alex says, hey, Hayden, let's take 2 of 3 against the Dodgers. Yeah, man. I hope we could definitely see that. That would definitely be ideal. Taking 2 or 3 from, really any, dominant team would be ideal. So hopefully for the Mets case, they are definitely capable of taking 2 out of 3 games. Even if you take 1, you take 1. I'd like them to simply enough take 2 of 3, but we'll see how things can go. Karen, what's going on? Devin, what's going on? Lane says, do you see the Mets winning this game? Yeah, I absolutely do see the Mets winning at least a game against the Dodgers. Like I said, you went 2 of 4 against the Dodgers last appearance, and simply enough, the Mets are a good ball team. I know people are scared of the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers may be a little bit of a better team than the Mets in certain factors, but they're still a very good team in my opinion. Bias aside, obviously a Mets fan, they're a good team. They're capable of doing what they need to do to get wins. So, yeah, like I said, I definitely think they are capable of winning games. Like I said, 2 of 3 is ideal. Peter, what's happening? Ibindo, Logan, Davis, Lane, Trey. Trey says, I really have no words right now. Just love this team, and I'm in awe. Just hoping and praying we make it all the way to October healthy and riding this high the rest of the way. Yeah, like I said, that is hopefully the goal that you have. Like I said, right now, health seems to be a good thing for the Mets. They've been staying healthy. They haven't been having any, IL sidelines. So that's been really a very impressive thing from them. Like I said, right now with this Mets team, it's just going to be how consistent are they going to be? To say for the least, guys like Marte, guys like Canna, guys like McNeil, Alonso, whoever, are going to have to be consistent. And, we saw that a lot last year. Consistency was really what killed this team. And we saw it a little in the first half where some guys would be inconsistent. And, you have some guys like that, whether that's a Canna, whether that's a Nimmo. And it's fine. I get it. All guys have their fair share of slumps. But simply enough, be consistent. And, this team could really go far. Kobe, what's happening? Kobe says, hey, Hayden, what's up? Great series against the Rockies. 3 or 4 something I'll always take. 100%, man. Can't go wrong. Cal, how are you going, man? He says, how are you doing, man? I mean, he says, hey, Hayden, how are you, man? I enjoyed the Rocky series. Yeah, I enjoyed it, definitely, to say for the least. Lane says, do you see the Mets calling up Vientos? Yeah, I mean, honestly, you could even make more of a case for the Mets calling up Vientos now, considering what is going on with Eduardo Escobar. Not so much his injury, but how Eduardo Escobar has been playing. And I guess is going to come into question is, are you going to have full trust in a 22-year-old third baseman? Probably not. If you're a playoff team, are you going to have full trust in Beatty to rely at third base? I get it. The Mets have had, younglings and, guys make their debuts in seasons where they make the World Series, like 2015 Conforto. But, Conforto had help out there. He also had Michael Dyer, where in this case, Beatty doesn't really have much help at third base is the only issue. Besides, Escobar is not doing anything. Yeah, you have Guillorme, but Guillorme's sideline. So, yeah, we're going to have to see how things can go. It's going to be interesting. But when it comes to Vientos, I think you can make a case. His strikeout numbers have gone down tragically at a really good level. The strikeout numbers were tragic, but they've gone down at a really good rate. At one point, he was like 44%. Now he's back down to 16. So that's really impressive for the last month from Mark Vientos. He's been having a really good month. The power numbers have been there, but he's also not striking out, and that's very impressive. You don't see a whole lot of power hitters have low strikeout numbers. Marco, what's going on? Marco says, yo, LFGM, Mets are playing very well as of lately. Yeah, they certainly are. I mean, there's really no major complaints right now with the Mets. They've been playing well. I mean, the pitching has been doing a good job. My only complaint, I guess you could say, is the bullpen. The bullpen right now is where I think this team could tend to be a little weary. So, we'll see. But right now, there's really no major complaints. Mets fans MB, what's going on, buddy? He says, if the Mets win this series versus the Dodgers, that would be crazy. I would be stoked. Yeah, you and me both, man. I mean, hopefully the Mets are able to at least take 2 or 3 from this Dodgers team. I think it's capable. And if they do, I'll come on here next stream and I'll be happy. David says, how should the Mets address their bullpen concerns? Yeah, so their bullpen is something that is not ideal. When it comes to addressing it, it's kind of hard. I mean, you had the trade deadline, and that's what really that's really how every team addresses their needs going into the second half is the deadline. The Mets didn't do anything at the deadline when it came to their bullpen. Billy Epler pretty much went the route with, I trust Dolly Rodriguez as the lefty. We'll wait till Lucchesi and McGill come back, and we'll throw those 2 guys in the pen. Peterson could join them in the pen, and we'll develop those guys in the bullpen, and then hopefully expect the best from Seth Lugo, Adam Ottavino, Trevor May when he comes back, who hasn't really shown a whole lot of progress and success. So, I mean, it's going to be something you're going to have to look at. I mean, could you put a Jose Budo in the bullpen? Probably not. But right now, when it comes to the Mets in this bullpen, that's where I get very worried. Like I said, this bullpen is, 2019 even worse level. It's just 2019, we didn't have the bats to come into clutch, where now we do. So we'll see. How do they going to address their bullpen? You hope Lugo could get back to 2019 Lugo. You hope May can get his shit together. Diaz continue doing what he is doing. Ottavino continue to do what he's doing. And, I mean, you're going to have to ask Dolly Rodriguez to get his stuff together. I mean, simply enough, looking at this Mets bullpen, aren't a whole lot of ideal guys in it. Obviously, you're going to hope a lot from Tommy Hunter. Trevor Williams, your long reliever, and you're going to have plenty of long relievers, so maybe you could kind of rely on that long reliever, giving you 3 innings of the bullpen. I think that's something you could definitely look at. Whether, let's say you have Peterson coming for an outing or Bassett or whoever, they give you 5-6 innings, and you could go with Williams for 3 innings and then Diaz for the 9th. I mean, that's something to explore. And then it doesn't have to just be Williams, because you can get 3 innings from Peterson, 3 innings from McGill, 3 innings from Lucchesi. Heck, they could finish the game. So we'll see how things could go. It's going to be interesting. Cubs fandom, what's going on? Camden, what's happening? Camden says the bullpen is garbage. Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that, man. The bullpen is pretty bad, to say for the least. James, what's going on? I appreciate you tuning in, man. Thumbs up. Cal says, should the Mets call it Mark Vientos? Yeah, I mean, like Lane kind of questioned before, I mean, hopefully you heard my explanation. If you didn't, quick little summary about it is, I think that you could definitely make a case for it, obviously, considering that the Escobar production hasn't been there. Guillorme is going to be gone for the next month or so, and I mean, do you really trust just Beatty at third base every single day? He's going to need some off days, and I'm not taking any more Escobar bats. I'm done with him. I mean, he's been a disappointment of a guy. We'll get into Escobar later. I think someone commented about him, so we'll rant there. Peter says, what's your ideal 1 through 5 batting order? That's actually a good question. Ideal 1 through 5 batting order. So right now, when everyone's playing at full expectation, keep in mind, full expectation, I would say Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso. However, you're looking at it right now, you see how Nimmo hasn't been a great part and a great attribute for this team's success in the first inning. So I would change it up a little bit, and I would go something like McNeil leading off. I have no problem with him leading off. We've seen him lead off games a couple times in 2019, a couple times in 2020, and I think a couple times last year. But when it comes to it right now, simply enough, Nimmo is not doing anything in the leadoff spot. I mean, he really hasn't been contributing a whole lot, really, in the first inning. He's been in a slump. I get it. It happens to every player. But even before that, he's been changing up his approach at the plate. He's been swinging much more. We spoke about it last stream, but he's changing his approach at the plate. He's swinging the bat much more. So, I mean, like I said, I have no problem if Nimmo wants to swing the bat more, but I don't want him in the leadoff spot if that's going to be the case. Like I said, I do miss the old Nimmo a little bit, walking, but hey, I have no problem with him swinging the bat more. I would just want someone else in the leadoff spot, so that way Nimmo can swing his at bat more. So yeah, like I said, we're going to have to see how things can go there. Going to be exciting. But when it comes to it, I have no problem with McNeil leading off. Marte batting second, Lindor batting third, Alonso batting fourth. Even Alonso batting third. Alonso does have good numbers in the 3 spot. Alex says clutch Mets. Absolutely, man. Mets have been very, very much so clutch lately. So we'll see how things can go there. Alex, what's going on? Trey says, been a well-executed offensive approach this season. This team is average power, so it was smart to attempt to be the best in MLB at contact hitting. This has the makings for an effective postseason offense. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this team does not have power numbers right now. I mean, you could simply enough see this team is not doing a whole lot when it comes to power with the long ball. Besides Alonso, and maybe you can make the case for some guys like Lindor and whoever. We're not seeing a whole lot of power. We're not seeing a lot of home runs from this team. So when it comes to it right now, how do they make up for that? By getting on base. They rely on, some lucky hits, as you could say. And I'll take that. I'll take those lucky hits than, the occasional long ball or something that this Mets team is supposed to give. Connor says Mets will win over 100 games this year. Oh, yeah. I mean, they'll probably get 100, 101, I think. Watch, they'll get 99. But no, I don't think they will. Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. Lane says, can the Mets call up Francisco Alvarez for September 1st? Well, as of right now, I hate to bring up what happened with Alvarez, but he is going to have some type of knee type of surgery. He does have a little bit of an injury. I will pull up Mets Twitter so I could see what that exact injury was, but he does have a little bit of an injury. So that is a little bit of a blow when it comes to Francisco Alvarez. Let's take a look, see at what went wrong with him. I know he said he did have an injury, and surgery was kind of still on the table if he would be out. So that would be a big blow. Obviously, he had an injury with his ankle. And obviously, it says Mets Francisco Alvarez is to go test on an injured ankle. So, like I said, we're going to have to see, how long he's going to be sidelined. He's going to be going for some testing. You hope he doesn't have to get surgery. And, in the next coming days, we'll see, how long is he going to be sidelined for. Like I said, it's really unfortunate that this is to happen or could happen, considering how great he's been. He's starting to get into his groove in AAA since he got called up. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, it would definitely be a blow if he were to, miss the rest of the season in AAA. I mean, it's an ankle thing, so I don't think he would miss the rest. Maybe if so, a month, and he'd return for the last couple weeks. I think that'd be good. And then, he doesn't have to miss any time. And even if that's the case, you have the off season and spring training to get back into that groove. Maybe you'll participate in some winter league thing, like a lot of these guys do. So we'll see. But as of now, probably not. Cal says, should the Mets just DH Eduardo Escobar? He's been the most disappointing free agent signing. Hasn't shown much hope at all this season. Yeah, Escobar has been really frustrating. I mean, simply enough, with Escobar, he's just constantly getting into these 0-2 counts, chasing at these silly sliders in the dirt. I mean, not even making, a good attempt even in the batter's box half the time. I get it. He's had a couple great outings. That Texas Rangers series, he was good. He had like 3 games with 3 homers in a row. But really, besides that, maybe the Phillies walk off, like 1 or 2 other things. He hasn't, he's done more harm than good, I feel. And I hate to say it. I mean, I was really looking forward to bringing in a guy like Eduardo Escobar. I thought he would be a great attribute to this team. I really did. I mean, keep in mind, he was at an all-star level last year, but he just completely changed up his entirety this season. He looks much different in the box. He's not taking selective at bats. Not seeing much fundamental baseball with him. Just a lot of strikeouts and a lot of flyouts, ground balls. Like, it's not like he's hitting the ball hard and it's finding a glove. It's just nothing like that. It's just been really disappointing. TD, what's going on? I appreciate you tuning in. Marco says, will Edwin Diaz win NL Reliever of the Year? And if so, how many saves do you think he'll finish with? Yeah, I think he'll definitely make a case for Reliever of the Year. I mean, yeah, I think the case for Hader's kind of been done. Obviously, he has not been having it since joining the Padres, and even his last couple weeks and games in Milwaukee, he did struggle. So I think his chances are kind of done with. How many saves he'll finish with? Well, right now, Edwin Diaz has how many saves? Edwin Diaz has 28 saves, and he's 1 strikeout away from 100. That's crazy. And only 51 and 1/3 innings pitched. So that's pretty much 2 strikeouts per inning. That's nuts. Yeah, so right now, when it comes to 28 saves, I'm not really crazy about the save stat, but just for the fun of it, he has 28. I think he can get 35, 40 maybe. Santiago says, well, Edwin Diaz, yes. Sorry. Lane says, who is going for the Mets on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? So for the Mets going into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's game, like I said, that is a 3-game set against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Game 1 is tonight at 7:10. For tonight's starters will be against the Mets and Dodgers. Tonight's starter will be Taijuan Walker going against Andrew Heaney. So that'll be game 1. For game 2, Jacob deGrom will be on the mound going against Tyler Anderson, another lefty. And then getting into game 3, we will have Chris Bassett on the bump. And for the Dodgers, it's to be determined. So yeah, I mean, we'll see who that's going to be. Could they be an opener, a bullpen game? I mean, we're really gonna have to see how the Dodgers plan to tackle that issue. Michael, what's going on, man? Paul, what's happening? Kobe says, what do you think of Brett Beatty as of right now? He's hitting the ball really hard, plenty of barrels. Yeah, I mean, he's been hitting the ball really hard. I mean, according to his baseball savant, let's see where Mr. Brett Beatty is right now with hard hit rate or average exit velocity. because I know it was pretty well. It was pretty good. And you make the argument unlucky. I get it. He hits a lot of ground balls. He spreads the field, but he's hitting the ball hard. And you know the saying, hit the ball hard and good things will happen. Obviously, him being in the 89th percentile in max exit velocity. So, I mean, he has some good, balls that have been hit pretty sharply. I mean, that's a really good sign when it comes to putting up good numbers. Obviously, in the short sample size, I know it's short, but 6.7 barrel percentage. That's not horrible for how many games he's played. Really is not horrible. I mean, contact chase percentage, 50%, zone swing percentage, 67%, zone percentage, 50.7%. So, I mean, he's putting up pretty good at bats. I mean, use the term unlucky, whatever you want to say. I mean, he has a great approach at the plate, very selective. So, I mean, he's been putting up really good at bats. I get it. His average, his OPS, whatever, it's low. I don't care. He's young. He's a rookie. He's only, 2 weeks in. He has plenty of time. I know the Mets pretty much have established that they're probably not going to send him down. They're going to platoon him at third with Escobar. And eventually, if Guillorme does return this season, they'll platoon him. So that'll be really exciting, to say for the least. Like I said, I really have no problem when it comes to them platooning. Like I said, we've been seeing Escobar's poor production. And obviously Guillorme, once Guillorme comes back, he's a very versatile guy. You could put him at third and platoon, obviously, Guillorme and Beatty. That'll be huge. And I think it's good, obviously, to give Beatty some reps. Like I said, this Mets team is playing well now, so you don't really have to worry, like I said, about the third base position. Obviously, getting into the playoffs, that's something you will have to examine. But when it comes to Beatty, I think he's a great hitter. I really do. Say unlucky, whatever you want. He's hitting the ball hard. You know the saying, you hit the ball hard, you get into a slump, eventually you'll break out and good things will happen. And I think that'll be the case for Brett Beatty. He's proven in the minor leagues he's a gap-to-gap hitter, spreads the field, and he hits the ball hard. And we've been seeing that at the MLB level. It's just, ground ball contact hard. You have a good third baseman, a good shortstop. They're going to pick that off. So, time will definitely come for Beatty. Davis says, if Marlins can compete with the Dodgers, I see no reason why the Mets can't take at least 2 out of 3 from them. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the Marlins took 2 out of 3 from them. I mean, obviously, they're nowhere near the Mets and Dodgers level of eliteness. But simply enough, looking at the Mets level, I mean, how did the Mets play the last time they played the Dodgers? They went 2 of 4. Obviously, they lost the first 2 and, won the last 2. But, they're definitely capable, simply enough, of taking the Mets are definitely capable of taking 2 or 3 from the Dodgers. They definitely are. I mean, baseball's streaky. We saw the Pirates sweep the Dodgers. That's what makes baseball great. It's not a guarantee. You saw the Pirates take 3 of 3 from the Dodgers in LA. Anything could happen. I mean, simply enough, anything could happen. I mean, that's what makes baseball baseball. Trey says you could play Escobar at DH against lefties, and that's probably going to be the thing. I mean, I did address that before. That's probably going to be the thing you see from Escobar is he's just going to DH against lefties, but then that also is going to, take some at bats away from Ruff, and Ruff has been probably hitting much better than Escobar since joining the Mets during his month with the Mets. So that'd be the only dilemma is you would be taking bats away from Ruff, and then if you're not taking bats away from Ruff, it'd be or Naquin, it'd be Nimmo or Canna, and I just don't want to do that. It's you touch one guy and then it trickles down to this whole lineup and the whole field. So when it comes to Escobar, I have no problem playing him once or twice a week as starting, and that's what the Mets are doing. They're benching him, and he's playing 1-2 games a week. I mean, there was a span where we saw Guillorme at third for like 4 days in a row. And now we've been seeing Beatty at third for what? I mean, go to Twitter or Instagram and look at the Mets lineups for, the last week. We've seen Beatty in there like every other day. And I mean, can you blame them? I mean, with Escobar, how he's been playing, can you blame him? At least, Beatty, you could at least expect to get a little bit more out of, crazy enough to say. But I mean, I don't blame them. Alec, what's going on? He says, hi, let's go Mets. Thank you. Appreciate you tuning in. Trey, what's going on? Trey says the Mets have a problem with catchers. McCann's and out at the plate, and Nito isn't much better. Do we bring up Alvarez and send one of these 2 down? If so, who do we send down? Well, right now it's kind of tough, Trey, because like I said, with the whole Alvarez situation, I don't think you're going to call him up because of that ankle issue. And you're definitely not going to do that. You're not going to want to put someone at the MLB level and expect 100% when they're still a little shaky. You got to be cognizant of that. But when it comes to McCann, I get it. We've probably shit on James McCann on this channel probably the amount of time someone breathes in a day, or exhales, or you know what I'm trying to say. So right now with James McCann, it's simply enough. You got to ride him out. I mean, unless this offseason and going into 2023, you hope to bring up Alvarez, and you have 2 years left. Obviously, $40 million with McCann. Do you just give him the money? Do you make him a backup catcher? Do you find a team good enough to take on that contract? Maybe they see something in him. They could fix him. I don't know. Nito, you're probably just going to ride as your alternate. I think that's probably going to be the case for Nito. But yeah, right now you're kind of in a tough situation. Jones, what's going on, Jones? He says Marte might be the most meaningful signing this offseason of all of them. Guy who is just a pure hitter is exactly what we needed, and he's clutch too. Yeah, I mean, to say for the least, he has been putting up really good at bat, Starling Marte. I mean, a lot of people coming into this season were expecting him to be the least effective. Everyone was saying, oh, he's another year older. How old is Starling Marte? Starling Marte is, what is he, like 35, 30, 34? 33. So, I mean, he'll be 34 this October, and a lot of people were concerned that we signed him to a 4-year deal. When he's 36, do you want him in the outfield? And people were worried about that. But this year, he's been having a really good year, and I said, listen, get 2.5 good years out of him, and I'll be happy. And you're getting a great year out of him from now. I mean, the average is much up there than I really anticipated. I did not expect him. Like I said, I know average is kind of a silly stat, but I didn't expect Marte to be hitting around the 290, 300 mark. I was expecting 270, 260. I was not expecting really any of these numbers. I was not expecting an 800 OPS. The OBP 346, okay. He doesn't walk as much maybe, which is kind of the only concern. The stolen bases are definitely not there, but like I said, only 18 stolen bases. It's not horrible. I mean, I think he could definitely finish with, 25, 26, 27. But one thing, like I said, with Marte is he's a guarantee for scoring on first to third, for first to home, a double down the line. That's a guarantee. So I guess that's one good thing you get out of Marte. I mean, you get so much more. I mean, he's an above average hitter, gets on base at an above average level. He's a great defender, great speed. You get so much more. You get a little pop. You get some power in his at bat. I mean, Marte overall is a good hitter. I mean, I'm simply enough going to say he's a good hitter, and I agree with you. He's been the most meaningful offensive free agent signing. Obviously, don't forget Max Scherzer. But, I mean, he's been, in my opinion, much better than Canna and Escobar, obviously. I mean, by far, Escobar, I mean, you could definitely, make the argument for Canna, too, although he's starting to heat up. So we'll see. I mean, the goal is for both of those guys to really warm up. But Marte has been putting up phenomenal jobs lately. Lane says, just look at the Mets there. They have to make the playoffs this year, be getting into first place. Yeah, and I definitely think they will. Cal says, Mets are a top 2 or 3 team in runs scored, and they worry about home runs. LOL. Rotation is second behind the Dodgers. Mets are just fine. It's the bullpen that's underperforming. It's about the bullpen performing. That's it. Yeah, pretty much I agree with you. That really seems to be the case for the Mets right now. When it comes to the lack of power, the lack of home runs, play small ball, fundamental baseball, score runs. You get these lucky hits, as other teams call it, then do that. If that's your run creation, go for it. So yeah, like I said, if that's your run creation, absolutely just go for it. Like I said, that rotation is fine. You have depth. The bullpen will hopefully get better, considering that you're going to be getting, McGill, Lucchesi, and Peterson back. So they'll, definitely more quantity in that bullpen, and definitely to help out the quality as well. So we'll see. Matthew, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tuning in. Says LFGM, let's take this series dub. Yes, sir. Trey, LFGM. Lane says, what is the news on Tyler McGill, Dom Smith, Drew Smith, and Lucchesi? So, yeah, right now, I believe the news on McGill is he is throwing rehab or, light tossing, whatever. So he should be back probably in a week or two. Drew Smith, I believe, should be around the same timeline as Tyler McGill. Lucchesi is throwing rehab in Florida at Port St. Lucie, so he should hopefully be back very soon. And Dom Smith, I have not heard a single thing on Dom Smith, so I really couldn't tell you. He's playing in AAA, and he's just been a AAA player for the most part. That seems to be the case that the Mets are going with him, and there's no room for him. And I don't really, yeah. Kobe says, who should get the start of third base, Beatty or Escobar? I'm going Beatty all the way. I mean, considering that at least Beatty's hitting the ball hard, And I mean, defensively, okay, he has room to improve, but I have to go Beatty. Ryan, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in, man. Cal's thoughts on Mets Old Timers Day. Yeah, it was good. I mean, going on to Lane's question, if I watched it, I did. I watched. I didn't watch it live. I watched it on replay. I was in Tallahassee this past weekend with some friends, so I wasn't able to watch it live, but I did rewatch it on replay. It was really good. I mean, big props to Steve Cohen for really honoring the past of this team, something that the Wilpon family did not do. Didn't really respect and honor a lot of the former Mets and the past history of the Mets. So good to see them honor the team, have a whole day worth of former Mets, whether that was a Keith Hernandez. I mean, whoever, honestly. I mean, you had, I mean, what, 50, 40 players there? I mean, I think the only guy that fans were upset that weren't there was David Wright, but everyone was there. Everyone from, the 86 team, whether that was Keith Hernandez, whether that was some newer guys and Daniel Murphy or Jose Reyes. Yeah, so really good to see. Of course, absolutely. David says, do you think Aaron Judge breaks Roger Maris's record of 61 home runs? He's at 50, 11 more, 12 to beat it. I think he's on pace, so I think he'll get it. Miles, what's going on? I appreciate you tuning in, Miles. Ballcap Sports, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tuning in, brother. Great Blue Jays fan. Kobe says, what's the biggest strength and weakness for them ahead? Assuming you mean for the Mets. Strength, I guess I would say, is pitching depth and I guess offense. I guess weakness is probably the bullpen. Do you send down James McCann? Well, probably not, considering that you just really be stuck with Nido, so you'd have to figure something out. If you get Alvarez, then yeah, I would definitely have no issue with that. Give me 1 second. That was weird. Daniel, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in, brother. He says, what's up, Hayden? When Lindor struggles, the Mets offense struggles. Hopefully, Buck will rest Lindor in September. Polar Bear and Lindor play too much. They need their rest for the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've been seeing. Well, with Alonso, I feel he's always, I mean, in 2019, 162 games, I think he played like 160, 159. Last year, besides getting injured for a week, he played like every game. This year too, I think he's only missed like 1 or 2 games. So I agree with you, especially now that you're in a different race. You're in a playoff race. You need them healthy for the playoffs. And the last couple weeks, obviously, playing the important series, against the Dodgers, the Braves. So you definitely want to rest them well. I agree with you on that, and I definitely feel you on that. So yeah, I mean when it really comes to that. When it really comes to that, I think it's just going to be is the rest. I get it. Lindor has been struggling, and I feel, obviously, when Alonso, Lindor, whoever your 3 and 4 hitter are, when they struggle, a lot of the lineup is going to struggle because it's, they're kind of the table setters in some sense, and you're big run creators. Your 2, 3, and 4 hitter are your big run creators, and you're not getting that. So, but yeah, I agree with you. Definitely something that we've been seeing is they need rest, and I agree. Daniel says, with the Mets having the second easier schedule in September, I expect them to win 100 games. Easiest, yeah, 100%. I think it's certainly doable. I mean, we've discussed how many wins this team will get, and I think 100, 101 is definitely reasonable, considering you have plenty of games against the Cubs, two series against the Pirates, the Athletics. That's doable. Davis says, what would you rate Buck Showalter this season on a scale of 1 to 10? In Buck we trust. I would honestly probably give Buck Showalter, probably give him a solid 8. Solid 9. Marco says, well, Albert Pujols hit 700. I think he will. I think he's, 6 away? I think he will. Daniel with a good question. He says, which Met do you think will not? Daniel says, which Met do you think will not be on the team next season? Obviously, Walker's a free agent. I don't know. I kind of feel like they may not bring back Walker. Who's on a 1-year deal? I mean, Escobar, I think you have for 2, right? I think you can make a case for Escobar. I think there's an opt-out this year for Escobar. So maybe Escobar or Walker, I'd probably say. Do the Mets call up Patrick Mazeika? Well, unfortunately, Patrick Mazeika is with the Giants, so that will no longer be the case. Michael Gibbons sucks, but on the bright side, hater is much worse. Yeah, that's where things have really seemed to collapse. Josh Hader, I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, he would just have the collapse that he has. I get it, relievers are streaky, and I mean, all guys have outings like this. It's expected, but yeah, I mean, crazy to see. Traces for historical perspectives. The Mets have only had a .600 winning percentage 4 times in their history. So by far, this is one of the best years up until now. Yeah, I mean, Mets haven't had a whole lot of, high winning seasons. So definitely good to see. Sass says, what's new with Dom Smith? Haven't heard about him in the last couple weeks. Yeah, so he is in AAA, and the Mets just don't have a bother to call him up. And can you blame him? Kobe says, should Jeff McNeil be the new leadoff hitter? He's been on fire as of lately and mainly this whole season. I don't know why he doesn't bat first. Yeah, like I said, with how well McNeil has been playing right now, I have no problem with him being the leadoff hitter. I definitely think he definitely should make a strong case considering that he's been a great hitter. He's, ditched that launch angle swing completely, and he's, bat to ball contact. He's a contact merchant, hits the ball to the opposite field, some BABIP hits, and he's been getting on base at an elite level, really, for the whole season, especially since the All-Star break, at a much more dominant and elite level. I mean, third in the league in average, definitely top. I think he's like top 10 in OBP, so he's there, definitely, no doubt. And like I said, nothing against Nimmo, but he's swinging the bat a little bit more, and because of that, I have no problem with that. But I would still, if that's the case, maybe bat him, second or, switch spots at least. Baseball is my era says everyone in the Mets bullpen except Diaz comes in and gives up runs. They can't even go one inning without surrendering a run. The long man, middle relief, and setup man are inefficient. Yeah, I mean, right now when it comes to that, you're really going to have to look at a lot of this bullpen. And we've discussed it a lot. And like I said, you're getting reinforcements in Peterson, McGill, Lucchesi, so you wait till then. Lane says, who do you think the Mets will sign in the offseason for Lane says, who do you think the Mets will sign in the offseason for going in 2023 spring training? I think Alvarez, if you're asking like who will make camp and who will be called up out of camp, I think Alvarez probably will. You can make a case for Vientos, probably Beatty still if he's considered a rookie, which he will be. So, yeah. So, we're probably going to call it a stream here. Obviously, we are past the hour mark. So, yeah, I definitely do appreciate, obviously, everyone for tuning in to today's stream. As always, we had a great stream for everyone for tuning in. I will get into the final comment from Daniel. He says, which team is the most disappointing, the White Sox or Giants? Considering with I'd probably say the Giants, considering that, they already fired Tony La Russa some bit ago, and that may be the case they do now. I mean, the injuries have killed them, so I don't want to go too crazy on them. I got to give them some slack on the injuries with their rotation, but simply enough, White Sox just have not been there offensively. A lot of one-run games, and yeah, really unfortunate season from them. So, yeah, so we are going to call it a stream here. I really do appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream as always. Obviously, everyone for leaving some great comments, questions, concerns, everything regarding the Mets and MLB overall. Like I said, I know it's Mets talk with Hayden, but at this rate, it's really just any baseball talk with Hayden. Obviously, in today's stream, we did go over the New York Mets and the Los Angeles Dodgers series preview, and then, of course, the New York Mets and the Colorado Rockies series summary. So summarizing that, what went well, what went wrong. Yeah, so super, super exciting. Hopefully the Mets can definitely get some damage. This series, as I could say, take 2 of 3, that would be ideal. And, you could expect some good stuff. I'll be happy. I will not be complaining. And yeah, like I said, appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like I said, smash that like button, turn on those post notifications or the ring bell, whatever you call it, so you never miss a stream or video. Tell your friends about this channel if they're interested in baseball. That'd be great. And yeah, like I said, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you are rewatching this on replay, hey, kudos to you. If you have any comments, drop them in the comment section below. Anything related to baseball, the Mets, whatever. Obviously, if you want to follow me on obviously follow me on Mets Twitter at Mets Hayden, so we could talk about anything really if you want to. And yeah, otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Really do appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream as always. And yeah, LFGM, Mets, Dodgers tonight, big series. Let's get it, boys.